In this module, we will delve into the best practices for configuring your MongoDB environment. This includes securely managing your MongoDB connection strings and utilizing environment variables to ensure your application is flexible, secure, and easily deployable across different environments. Let's first define what environment variables are. Environment variables are key value pairs that store configuration data outside of your application code. Using them makes your applications more flexible and secure. So, why should you use environment variables? Firstly, they help separate configuration from the actual code. Secondly, they ensure that sensitive information, like passwords and API keys, are kept secure. Finally, they facilitate easy deployment of your application across various environments, such as development, testing, and production. A MongoDB connection string is essential for your application to connect to a MongoDB database. Typically, a MongoDB connection string follows this structure: MongoDB // username, password at host, port/database. Let's break down the different components of a MongoDB connection string. The MongoDB // specifies the protocol used to connect to MongoDB. The username, password, is the authentication credentials for accessing the database. The host port refers to the address and the port number where the MongoDB server is running, and finally, the database is the name of the database you wish to connect to. To manage environment variables effectively, create a file named .env in the root directory of your project. This file will store all your configuration variables. Here is an example of how to create and populate a .env file. MongoDB_URI equals MongoDB // localhost 27017/myapp, db_name equals myapp, port equals 3000, and node_nv equals development. When creating a .env file, follow these best practices. Always keep your .env file in the root directory of your project. Add it to your gitignore file to prevent it from being committed to your repository. Use descriptive names for your variables to easily understand their purpose, and avoid adding spaces around the equal sign. To load environment variables from the .env file into your application, you will need to install a package called .env. For Node.js projects, you can install it by running the command npm install .env. For Python projects, you can install it using pip install python.env. Once the package is installed, you can load the environment variables into your application by adding the following lines of code at the entry point of your application. For Node.js, require .env.config const mongoURI equals process.env.mongoDB_URI const dbName equals process env_name. It's common to have different configurations for different environments such as development, staging, and production. Let's look at the different environments. For the development environment, use a local MongoDB instance with debugging enabled. The code would be MongoDB_URI equals MongoDB // localhost 27017/app_dev, node_nv equals development, debug equals true. For the staging environment, use a staging MongoDB server with debugging disabled. The code would be MongoDB_URI equals MongoDB // staging -db 27017/app_staging, node_nv equals staging, debug equals false. And for the production environment, use a production MongoDB Atlas cluster with debugging disabled. The code would be MongoDB_URI equals MongoDB plus srv // user, pass at cluster.mongoDB.net/app_prod, node_nv equals production, debug equals false. When working with environment variables, it's essential to follow security best practices to protect sensitive information. Here are some key security rules to keep in mind. Never commit your .env files to version control systems like Git. Always use strong, unique passwords for your MongoDB databases. Remember to rotate your credentials regularly to minimize the risk of unauthorized access. For production environments, consider using MongoDB Atlas, which provides robust security features, and enable IP whitelisting to restrict access to your MongoDB databases from trusted sources only. Also, here is an example of a .gitignore file to ensure your .env files are excluded from version control. The code is #environmentVariables.env local.env production #dependencies node_modules/. Always verify that the .env file is ignored before making your first commit to prevent accidental exposure of sensitive information. Let's see a complete example implementation of using environment variables with MongoDB in a Node.js application. The code is require.env.config const mongo client equals require mongodb const client equals new mongo client process.env@mongodb_URI async function connectDB await client.connect console.log connected to MongoDB. In summary, environment variables enhance security by keeping sensitive information out of your code base. We can use .env files for configuration, and different configurations are used per environment. And it is extremely important to never commit sensitive data to version control. With that, configuration is complete. If you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Visit CodeLucky.com for more such useful content.